guys, Sal here with SS Multimedia. Today we're going to be talking about acting it out and using reasoning. Okay, so this is going to be our objective. We're going to be using different strategies to solve multi-step word problems. So let's underline the important parts. We have different strategies. And then this part right here is the most important part. Okay, this is the most important part right there. Multi-step. Okay, so be warned beforehand, multi-step problems are harder than just regular problems. Okay, so it will take more time, but you will be rewarded if you stick with me throughout this lesson. Okay, so now let's make sure we understand. So what is a strategy? So as I'm sure you know, it's like a method, different ways to solve a problem. Okay, then there is multi-step word problems. Okay, so let's break that part down. What is multi-step? Right, so multi means many, right? So just multiple step word problems. Okay, so instead of just doing 5 times 6, it could be 5 times 6. 5 times 6 equals 30 minus 5 equals 25. Could be problems like that. And then word problems. Word problems are not, so this was not a word problem. 7 times 4 equals what? That's not a word problem. What is a word problem would be something like this. Jeff bought 10 apples. Bob bought 15 apples. How many apples did they buy in all? Okay, so that would be a word problem. Okay, why is it called that? Well, because it has words. Okay, so now that we understand what today's lesson is going to be about, let's get started. Alright guys, so we're going to start this off with an example. Okay, so this is a word problem, in case you're wondering. So now, so we have 5 steps to solve this problem, okay? Or 4 if you count technicalities, but I'm going to call it 5, okay? So the first step is read the problem. The second step would be understanding the problem, okay? Then the third step would be solving using multiple steps. Using multiple steps. And then this one is technically it's a step, technically it's not. Answer. Okay. The reason why I say technically because if you solve it, then technically you know the answer. But if you're in a school test, if you solve, you have all your work. Say this is a bunch of work. And this is where you're supposed to write the answer, but you don't write anything there. So the teacher has to look through all the work. Well, then it's not an answer, right? So technically that's a step. Okay, but technically it's not. So I'm going to keep that one as optional. Because right now we're not doing a school test. Okay? Now let's get started. We're going to use this as a check mark. Okay, so we're going to check everything off as we go. Okay? So now let's do this. Let's go with the first step. What is it? Read. Tom had 10 marbles. 5 were red in color, and he had 3 more blue marbles than white. How many of each color of marbles does Tom have? Okay, so that's step 1. We read it. Okay, but reading doesn't mean we understand it. Right, so now to understand this problem. Right, so I have a table here. Let's use it. So we know that we have 5 red, right? So now let's figure out how many blue do we have? Okay, so we're going to give white a variable. We're going to call that W. Okay? So now what is blue? Blue is W times 3. Right? So it looks like white is W, blue is W times 3, and red is 5. Okay? So I think if you really think about it, and you read the problem again, you understand how to solve it. And if you understand how to solve it, that means you understand the problem. Right, so let's read this again and you'll see it. Tom had 10 marbles. 10. Okay, so that's the total. So right here we're going to have total 10. Okay? So 5 were red in color. That's right there. and he had 3 more blue marbles. So 3 more blue marbles than white. And white, of course, they don't give a number, so we use the first letter as the variable. Okay, so it looks like we understand the problem. Let's get started. Okay, so we understand. Now let's move on to these 2 steps. These are kind of like a merge step. Solving using multiple steps. Okay, that's why it's called a multi-step word problem. So what's the first step? Well, the first step is figuring out how much do these 2 combine, right? How much do these 2 should combine to make? Otherwise, we can't solve. So now we have the total minus the known, okay? So if we have total minus the known, we get the unknown. The unknown becomes known, okay? So I know that, I just used the word known like a billion times in that sentence, so it doesn't make sense. But basically, it's just basic subtraction. Okay, so if you do 10 minus 5, these 2 numbers should start clearing up. So 10 minus 5 is 5. Okay, so that means that these 2 numbers should combine to make 5, right? Because 5 is what these 2 make. Okay, so now let's figure this out. We have plus 3. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake there. It's plus 3, right? So now we have W plus 3 equals 5, right? So now we actually have a problem here, right? So now let's figure this out. Let's do this thing. We have white. So we have white is W, and blue is 3 more than that. So we have, let's try the combinations. What are combinations to make it to 5? There's only 2, right? 1 and 4, 2 and 3. Okay? So now which one of them is 3 apart? Because it's plus 3, right? Let's figure this out. So W plus 3 equals blue, right? And blue plus W equals 5. So that means whichever one, so if 3 minus 2 equals 3, right? Then that means 3 is blue, white is 2, right? So let's try that. 3 minus 2? Only 1. Okay, now let's try 4 minus 1. Well, look, we have 3, right? So now it looks like 4 is blue. So blue is, let's erase all the stuff here. Blue is 4, and white is 1, right? So now we know how many types of each color marbles. So now we can check these 2 steps off. Solved? Yes, we solved it. Did we use multiple steps? Yes, we did. We did 10 minus 5. Then we wrote down the combinations. Then we subtracted both to find out which was the answer, thus gaining the answer. So, yes, we used multiple steps. Okay, and now are we answering the question? Right? So let's have a blank spot here, okay, to write. Okay, now this is how you write. Okay, but since this is a kind of question where there's 3 answers here, right? We can't just write 10 because that's not part of the problem. We have to write red is 5, blue is 4, white is 1, right? So, actually, we wrote down the answer right there. Okay, so it looks like we did the 5th step while solving. Alright guys, it's problem time. Okay, so today we're going to be doing just kind of like another example, except you're going to answer it yourself. Okay, so I want you to post your score in the comments below. And of course, there's only one question, so you're just going to say if you got it right or wrong. Okay, don't post your answers. Please don't spoil it. Just post your score, okay? See how you did. Okay, so I want you to pause the video, try and figure out this question by yourself, write it down on a sheet of paper, then come back to check. Okay, so I'm assuming you've given it a go. Okay, so now let's get started. Okay, so let's read the question. There are 70 rides in Slideland. Okay, by the way, that's made up. 10 of them are merry-go-rounds. There are 20 more roller coasters than water slides. How many of each types of slides are there? Okay? So now let's figure this out. Okay? So the water is, let's see, water we don't know. Right? So now let's call that W. Okay? Now let's write the 70 rides, right? And there's 10 of them are merry, 20 more roller coasters. Right? So we have 20 plus W is how much in the roller coaster. Right? So now let's figure this out. We have 70 is the total. Now we have to subtract it by the merry-go-rounds, which is MGR. Okay, so let's subtract. 70 minus 10 equals 60. Okay? So it looks like we have to get to that total. Okay, now let's figure this out. What are some combinations? So let's go by tens. Okay, because I have a feeling it's going to be in the tens. Okay, so let's go with that. Okay, so that way it's simple. If it's not there, then we'll go to something else. So we have 10 and 50. And then we have 20 and 40. Okay, so now let's do this. We have 50 minus 10, 40. No. Let's try this. 40 minus 20. Well, there you go. We got 20. Okay, so 60, as this line shows, 20 and 40, these both go to 60. Okay, so it looks like the water slides, is 20. So I'm going to write over it. Okay, and the roller coaster is 40. So it looks like it's 20, 40, and 10. Okay, so now let's check. Let's add all of them up and see if they amount to 70. So we have 20 plus 40 plus 10. Let's add. Of course, that's 0, 2, 6, 7. 70. Okay. So again, we don't have to use step 5 because this table here is the answer. Okay? So thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And keep an eye out for the next videos to come.